Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Superficial Spirit. It's me, God incarnate, as a blonde, aging twink, Peter Breeze. Nice to share this time with you. I am here with my two ascended fans. You may recognize her from the 2040 documentary, Why I Still Love Jesus. It's Jess.
Hello, hello. I love that we are your fans.
You are ascended fans. Hello. That's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
you've joined the podcast because you've surrendered your life to me. Oh
Mm.
God. I can just like when I say stuff like that, see like flashbacks. Like in 10 years there's gonna be a documentary about me saying all these weird psycho things and I'm a cult leader now. Let's hope
You
that
wish.
doesn't happen. That's true. I do wish. Oh, you just heard him. If you say his name 3 times, he'll show up at the foot of your bed. It's Derek.
Don't hate me because I'm beautiful. Hate me because I'm extremely mean.
Not false, no.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like that is a little on the nose.
What? When am I mean? I'm not mean.
Eh,
I'm look. Maybe I'm look. I'm not mean to anyone. I've never been mean to either of you. I mean about charlatans and thieves and stuff. Charlatans and
I think
liars is who I'm mean about.
I
You're
think
not
the
mean to us.
way yeah, no, you're not mean. I think you're really direct and that can be interpreted as mean. Like
Yeah, by
sometimes when you
people
and
with
I
no
get
fucking
heated,
no one
I'm
with
like, is he
backbone.
being mean? Is he being mean to me? But then I'm like, no, he's just telling me what he thinks.
If
There is
look
a
if
difference.
if directness is interpreted as mean, just like grow a spine.
I've been called direct a lot too, especially like living on the West Coast now, being from the East Coast. And then I'm just always like, sorry, I'm from Jersey, I'm from New York. And I've had
Well,
people like at work later on be like, oh, I thought you hated me for like 5 years. And now and now I think you're great and I'm glad we're friends. I'm like, oh my God, do I have a resting bitch face?
that's the thing. Like Americans, on largely, I find are like way more like easy to just understand. Like I feel like there's a lot less hiding of what they really mean in general going on. I mean, I know you as an American person would be like, I know plenty of people who like are disingenuous, but Canadians, I don't know if you've noticed this at all, Jess, but like there's like this weird obsequiousness. There's like this weird like there's people are really pretending to be polite, even if what they're thinking is like "fuck you, bitch." You know,
That's
isn't there
very much
fakeness?
so California, and it's what East Coasters think of Californians and everyone. It's
Mm.
true. I feel like a lot of people do seem fake and have the niceties. I didn't notice that about, or I didn't know that about Canadians. Obviously, I didn't notice that with both of you.
I mean, Peter, would
But
you
you,
agree?
yeah, I mean, Evan and I were just talking about this last night in my Uber home. The Uber driver was from Turkey, and we were just talking how he came here to learn English, and then he met this girl, and they fell in love, and they had a baby, and then the Turkish government was getting a little crazy, so he decided to stay. But he's like, every time I have somebody who was born in Canada that I'm driving, I always ask them, like, what's a Canadian meal or what's a Canadian culture, and I'm like. I don't know. I mean, bacon and eggs, and also that we're nice. So it came up to the topic of being nice. And then Evan and I was telling him the story this morning when we were going to the farmer's market, and we were saying how it's nice on the surface, but it's like we're the country of condescending or like
Yeah,
of being passive aggressive because our
totally agree.
history is really, really dark and we're imperialistic and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's weird Canada's identity apart from like, maple syrup and the RCMP and all those like cheeky things that the rest of the world thinks of us. It's that we're nice. But also my friend Guillaume who moved here from France is like Canadians are flaky. Like they're nice and friendly, but they're just like it's like vapid. It's not there's no substance.
Yeah, I just get the vibe that like there's so much like being thought of or judgment going on that is not communicated, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why reality, in my opinion, why so many Canadian versions of reality shows don't really pop off because Canadians are not as shameless and we're not able to like just say what's on our mind without being apologetic about it. So on TV, you have these really confrontational people like on the Housewives or Drag Race. And it's so great because you can tell that's just who they are. It's just like coming out of their mouth. And then when you watch Canadian versions of that, it's like they're trying to play a reality TV version of themselves on TV. And it's like, nobody in Canada is throwing a glass of wine across the table. That has never happened once in Canadian history. It happens in Beverly Hills every weekend, probably, in restaurants across the town.
The best moment of Canadian TV that has ever been produced is Jodie Clayman yelling at Mary Zilba in The Real Housewives of Vancouver season 1, where she's like, "You're a hooker, Mary. You live in an apartment. You don't have a car." And it's like you okay, like what? Like that's how you know she's a hooker. She lives in an apartment and doesn't have a car. Like, okay, all right,
I'm waiting for Jodie Clayman to get back to me because Mary was on my
hell yeah.
show and some of the other housewives are, scheduled to come on, and I'm just waiting for Jody. But Jody actually blocked me on Facebook because I updated my cover photo of this picture of Jody, but her skin is red and she's the devil. And we were friends, and I was friends with her daughter Mia. We used to party all the time, and then she blocked me. So I don't think she probably remembers that because I'm sure lots of people were calling her evil back in the day. But I'm dying to get Jody on the show because she was the meanest to Mary. Poor Mary.
Yeah, it was just over the top. But yeah, we don't do that too much. Canadians are not like that in general. I mean, they feel it, but they don't show it.
And this is why, like, David Yontef was also on the show, and I always watch Housewives. Like this morning, I was watching Salt Lake City. I'm like, oh my God, I want to be on a boat so bad with cameras and like confront my friend about something. It looks so fun. But then I'm like, Peter, in reality, you would never do that unless you were drunk and high at 5 a.m. Would you ever confront somebody in front of a group of people? Like, I am such a people pleaser. I would be so boring on a reality show. I'd just be like, oh my God, yes, like so polite, just smiling, whatever you want. Like, who wants to watch that?
I wonder if producers behind the scenes are like kind of, or if there's someone to like egg them on.
There definitely is. They drink and they get personality types, learn their triggers, lock them in a fucking hotel
Exactly.
room for 3 days in Arizona. And I mean, if us three went on a trip and there was cameras on us and we're only allowed to take like 30-minute breaks throughout an entire weekend, and they were just constantly giving us alcohol and trying to get us like riled up, we would fight at some point about something. And then they would just take that like 5-minute clip and then make it last an entire season. So yes, there
what
are
was that yoga
producers.
event you did?
Okay, first, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Sorry to the listeners, we weren't here last week, but last week I went to 3 events and I wanted to tell you about them. Well, I only really want to tell you, well, I can tell you about all 3, but the first was I, as you know, work with some drag queens. I represent them for their live Canadian bookings, and one of them is Brooklyn Heights, who hosts Canada's Drag Race. And I think she was definitely top 4, maybe top 3, maybe top 2 in her season. So she's a really well-known drag queen, definitely the most high-profile person we work with. And I've never met her in real life. Like, even though we have lots of mutual friends and we text all the time and I book her, she is mostly filming. So I actually don't get to book a lot of her live events because her schedule is too packed. But a few months ago, this event reached out to us. They're a really bougie event in Toronto called Canfar. It's like all of the, upper echelon of society come and spend a lot of money.
Can
It's
fart.
for a
Can
That's what I
fart.
heard.
Oh, Canfar, you
Can fart.
freaks. Oh my God. So they reached out. I had actually never heard of the event, but Evan's mom was like, oh my God, it's like they do private dinners at Louis Vuitton and Chanel, and it's like $25,000 to get a table. So super great event to be a part of, really exciting to book. Lots of Canadian celebrities were there. And I knew leading up to it that I was going to have to go. And I was so fucking nervous because Derek, are you okay?
Still laughing about can fart. Sorry.
Oh my God. Derek has had 1 coffee and this is what happens. This is the no caffeine zone for Derek moving forward. Anyway, back to my glamorous life. I was really nervous leading up to it because I used to party a lot in my 20s. I don't party anymore that often. And when I have to go to events, I get a lot of social anxiety, especially if I don't know people. And especially if it's a work thing where I know everybody's going to be rich and famous and I'm going to show up with my H&M suit feeling like, why am I here? Thankfully, leading up to the event, Steve, who I work with, who is Brooklyn's manager, ended up coming to Toronto from Chicago. So he was going to be there. And we put, there was like a guest list of people that we knew. Last minute, the drag queen Jada Shada Hudson, who was also on Canada's Drag Race Top 2, was supposed to come with me. She wasn't feeling good. She didn't come. So I got my friend Tape to join me. And thank God, because all day I was mentally preparing to go by myself. I had so much anxiety. I was like, what am I going to do? Okay, I'll just go until Brooke performs and then I'll leave. I'll just like stand in the corner. Anyway, Tape ended up coming with me, which is great because if I would have gone by myself, like you walk in immediately, red carpet. Like as soon as you get into the venue, cameras everywhere. It wasn't like a red carpet like the Oscars with like hundreds of photographers, but like red carpet, cameras, people dressed up like they are going to the Oscars. And I was like, oh my God, thank God I had my friend here. So we kind of like mingled for a bit. And then Brooklyn walks in wearing this giant yellow dress. She looked like Glinda from The Wizard of Oz, but like neon yellow. It was so glamorous. I see her from across the room. She's going down the red carpet. They're taking her picture. And I immediately am like, oh my God, like I haven't met her in real life. What if she doesn't recognize me? Like I was just like so in my head. So I'm standing there. She walks through the crowd and we kind of like pass each other because everybody was like, Brooklyn, Brooklyn, Brooklyn. And then I see Steve and Steve says hello. And Brooklyn looks back and there's all these people. And she's like, oh my God, it's Peter. And then I like walk over to her and we like hug. Well, I couldn't really hug her because of her huge dress. And we're like doing the air kisses. Everybody in the room is looking. There's like all these flashes. It was just like so surreal. And I felt really stupid to be starstruck in front of somebody that I work with. But I was, me, I've been obsessed with fame my whole life. Suddenly I'm in this scenario where it's like super high stimulation, camera flashes, red carpet, fancy people. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't even say anything. Whatever. That moment passed. I needed to go like have a timeout and be like, oh my God. And my friend was like, wow, you seem so nervous. I'm like, I am nervous. Hello. This is like a fantasy. So we go through the night, super fun. I was dancing all night. I met this woman who had like literally 3 foot long nails. I don't know. She was probably a billionaire. She was so fancy, so bougie. Oh, and oh my God, I was standing at the bar getting a grapefruit juice, talking to this really fabulous person who had like ostrich feather jacket or something, and we're talking. Suddenly I smell burning and I'm like, somebody's hair is on fire. That's what I thought, like somebody's wig, but it was their sleeve had caught fire at the bar. It was so funny, so funny, but so I felt bad for him. He was really embarrassed. um Blah blah blah, danced all night. Brooklyn has finally done her event, her performance. She does this Devil Wears Prada mega mix. It was so good, and we finally get to catch up. First of all, if you're ever at a party with somebody who is famous, even at like that level of fame, she can, and also
Happens
just
to me all
being a
the time.
drag queen. Yeah, I'm sure it does. Walking through the bar was impossible. Everybody was just like taking pictures every 5 seconds. It took us like an hour to get through. We finally find a spot where we can like dance a little bit, and I sit down, she sits down, and we finally get a chance to talk for like 52 seconds. Cameras coming over, all the flashes. And then there's this one picture that I posted on Instagram where we're both posing, but it was so surreal. And I would never say this to her face because I'd be too embarrassed to be like, it was so cool to be around like all of that energy and people loved her so much. And it was just like, even her manager Steve is used to that because they've known each other for a long time. He's been with her while her rise. But when you're somebody like me who dreamed of being famous and who is like so obsessed with pop culture and celebrities and the experience of fame, and you finally get to be around somebody who is like experiencing that in the moment, it was so fucking cool. And I was just like buzzing. And I think I was the only person in the room who was like, oh my God, oh my God. Maybe I wasn't, maybe other people were, but oh my God. It felt like a fantasy. It was so cool. I was so like in a daze. Like the next day I woke up and was like, I can't believe that. I can't believe that that's part of my life now because even though I wanted to be the star, I'm so lucky now that I get to be a part of other people's journey like that. And I wish you both were there. It was so cool.
Well, I love that you're like I don't know, humble as well. Like you're not somebody that's always wished they were famous and then not nervous at all going on the red carpet and be like, look at me, guys. I don't want my friend with me. Like, yeah, take pictures of me. I'm somebody. So you're not some like dickhead that's taking it all in. 'Cause, like listening to the story, I'm like, I'm almost surprised that you feel so nervous because this is something you've been wanting, like red carpet walks and flashes of lights and people knowing you
Oh
and
my
you are
God.
friends with this person. So I love that you're still humble.
It's not, it's like though when you have built up something in your mind so big, it is really hard for me to be like the way I was explaining, because my friend said the same thing. Peter, why are you so nervous? Like just relax. Like everybody loves you. Like you're Peter Breeze, just like, and I did know a few people there, but I'm so distracted by fame that when I'm in that environment, it's really hard for me to get out of my head and just relax and have a good time because it's like I'm physically it's like I'm in a simulation of my own fantasies, and it's really hard to just be grounded. I can't even fucking imagine what it would be like to work with like Madonna or Britney Spears or fucking Beyonce and have that kind of energy because it is so much. And yeah, Jess, you're not the first person who says like, "Oh, I'm surprised you get nervous in those situations." But I am actually really shy when I don't know people. I don't know. And people were going onto the red carpet and they were like, "Oh, take my picture, take my picture." And I was like, "There's no way." My friend was like, "Go." And I was like, "No. I absolutely am not." Maybe if I had been drunk or a little tipsy, I would have been a little looser. But no, I was, yeah, I think I was anxious until like I knew I was about to leave in 20 minutes and then I like relaxed a little bit. It was just like, if that becomes more and more part of my life, like if that part of my career takes off and I'm working with more famous people, I'm going to have to find a way to, or maybe you just get used to it. I don't know. But in that moment, I was like, woo.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's like a lot nicer that you have enthusiasm and you're excited like this because the alternative I feel like is maybe two options where either you're bored and jaded and you're like, "Ugh, don't you hate all this to like the famous person next to you, whatever. And they're like, yeah. Or, or you're like one of the little like sort of hangers on who somehow got to be there and really wants people to think they're important and is like acting cool,
Yeah.
which
And I
can get
do know
noxious.
those people. Yeah. Those people were definitely there who were like, friend of a friend, getting their picture taken, looking so good. And listen, I used to be like that. There's nothing wrong with it. But I also feel like there's a level of respect when you are somebody's agent who is well known. I feel like a responsibility to just be cool and respectful in that environment because I'm the guest of somebody else and it's not about me. And I was just happy that somebody happened to take Brooke's picture when I was there and I got to be in it, because it's so easy to get sucked into that stuff. And yeah, lots of socialites, lots of people who are friends with socialites. I mean, it was the closest Hollywood experience that I think you could have in Toronto, maybe in Vancouver, or as closest to LA, but yeah, it was really, really cool. And then I went to an event on Saturday and it was with a Real Housewife, Ashley Darby from the Real Housewives of Potomac. It was a very superficial spirit, ideal environment because she was teaching a yoga class, talking to us all about being mindful. And I was like, oh my God, where are Justin Derrick? I need to like record this experience because it was like she's currently on TV. It was a little funny because like she was teaching yoga, but then like she had her yoga's like her assistant in the front row that was like kind of not prompting her, but helping her a little bit. Um, and I thought that was really cool. I don't have a lot to say about that event other than it was cool to be with a Real Housewife, an American Real Housewife. She was really nice. We went on her TikTok. We did a TikTok dance with her. I didn't know what I was doing. I felt so embarrassed, so old. But I'm always happy to meet a Real Housewife. And I don't know. I would like to talk to her because she did allude to like her spirituality and her mindfulness and being a part of the show and going through a really public divorce. So would love to talk to somebody at some point in depth because it's a perfect topic for superficial spirit, but didn't happen there. The next day I go to this fucking engagement party. I was so tired on Saturday night. Evan and I went to bed at like 4:30, 5 in the morning. So I woke up ready to talk to y'all, but I was dead. I don't know if you saw the picture I post or the video I posted on my Instagram stories. It was a Jewish couple, their engagement party, and they had like this warehouse, so it was like a rave environment, even though everybody was like 40. It wasn't like turning up, but they did the chair thing. I don't know what it's called. It was so So funny.
Like, what's the wedding going to be like if the engagement party is that
Um,
much fun?
yeah, I don't know. They booked the venue. It's going to be in September, so I'll let you know. But
Yeah, it's
it
going to be so much
inspired,
fun.
yeah. So thank you for having the day off. You too. Thank you for accommodating, and thank you to our listeners for being patient.
Yeah, I woke up and I saw your stories. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to record today. I was like, Peter had a very active weekend.
Yeah, and December, I think it's just going to be crazy. There's just a lot happening. So we'll roll with it. But I'm happy that we're here today and we get to share this time together. And Jess, I'm so glad that you suggested we talk about what we're going to talk about today, because it's a when you talk about like like pop culture and spirituality, this person, I don't know if you would say she was a part of pop culture, but definitely like high social media profile, definitely well known in the spiritual community, and definitely like the the tinge of like celebrity and like culty. She definitely is like a charismatic leader. So why don't you tell us about today's topic?
Yeah, so we are going to talk about Doreen Virtue, where it's kind of old news, but still she pops up in my mind, and I think she's so intriguing. Where she was the queen of spirituality, New Age, Hay House's cash cow, literally has like 50 angel card decks, probably over 100 books. I'm just making up numbers, but if you're ever looking to buy an angel card deck, they're still all on sale. You'll see her name everywhere in New Age
Is that
stores.
is that tarot with angels?
Probably. Yes. Oh, you're asking what an angel card deck is. It's
Yeah.
not tarot, it's just angel card decks, or it's just any other spiritual decks that everyone seems to be creating nowadays, or just pretty pictures, maybe with an angel on it that says a little bit of a saying. And you treat it like a tarot deck where you might shuffle the cards, pull one out, and it says something lovely, depending on what your quote intention is. And angel card decks seem to be, yes, Peter, sorry, they seem to be very positive, where sometimes tarot could feel either way.
I was just gonna say that, yeah, Jess, you explained it perfectly. It's like tarot, but they're themed. And my first Doreen Virtue deck was mermaids, a mermaid deck. So I would be in the morning, every morning, shuffling the cards, and I would pull, and it would be like playtime. And then you look in the book, and it's like the mermaids are telling you that you need to take some time to play, and like blah blah blah. And those cards always felt like, okay, what the fuck does that mean? I mean, I interpreted that as like, let's go get fucked up at the club, but they also had a lot of like abundance, soulmate, positive blessing. So the angel, mermaid, flower, fairy decks, they were all always 100% positive, toxic positivity. Everything good is going to happen to you. Whereas tarot, yeah, has the potential to be like a not good reading.
And towards the end, I think she came out with Jesus decks, but more of like Jesus is an ascended master, not like Jesus as in Christianity, Roman Catholic, and Mother Mary decks. She would wear crystal crosses and always kind of try to merge Christianity and New Age, but be more so New Agey.
Crystal
Um,
Cross is a sick drag queen name, by the way.
That is a good name. Yes. Crystal Crosses. Writing that down.
For some reason, on my, because I was deeply into New Age from like the age of like 18 to, I don't even know, 36. Okay, I'm old, guys. So I was deeply into it for years. And for some reason, I never read any of her books or picked up any of her card decks until I started going to some. I would go to like psychic courses and stuff like that, and there'd be her decks to like play with when I went to the courses. But I was never like that into her. I think it was because she played off of like Christianity, and I was like very like, that's not my God, that's not who I believe in. Saying the word angel or Jesus means you're
Mm.
Christian, and I'm spiritual, not religious, and that's touching too much religion. But Peter, you said you had some of her decks
So
and books.
my whole thing about Doreen Virtue was she really made like spirituality, that version of spirituality, really accessible. And it was kind of when before Instagram, I think, because I used to watch her weekly tarot forecast every week on YouTube or Facebook, wherever they were. And she would just like pull cards. She would tell you what's going to happen in the week. And it was always relatable. And I liked Doreen for that purpose. Like I feel like she was always available. She was always online. She was always giving you information. She was making it seem really easy to read these cards. There was nothing special about her. She just, was channeling the angels, and anybody can do it. And if you take her class, you can do it too. I do remember having moments when I was in magic stores and I was like, damn, she has so many fucking decks. And you sort of get that intuitive feeling like, wait a second, does she need 32,000 different types of decks? Like, obviously, she's making a lot of money. And in her YouTube thing, she tries to be super grounded, but she like has her massive property in Hawaii or wherever it is she lives. So, definitely was like loving her and the way that she presented spirituality and the way she made it accessible, but also really hard to ignore the fact that she was like, I'm Doreen Virtue, very like Oprah in that way, like buy my products, listen to me. And when I heard about her, she went to church one day and heard the voice of Jesus basically and denounced all of her work. I was really like, for me, it didn't affect my life. That was kind of when I was already on the kind of like the way out of that community. But there are probably millions of people around the world who depended on her for spiritual guidance, who believed in what she was selling, who put a lot of faith, time, energy, and love or whatever into the practices and theories that she taught people, that she just abandoned one day or said, no, 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 no. It's not that there is no God. It's just that it's this version of God now. It's Jesus, and everything that I did before is Satan and demonic, and it's bad. So I don't know. I just remember feeling sad for the people who would be really confused by that, and perhaps they are now either feeling forced to become Christian or they lose their faith altogether, similar to what happened to you, Jess. Like, you get to these moments where, unfortunately, the toxicity of the New Age community and leaders like this lead people astray, and they just get fucked over because they were genuinely looking for hope, love, and healing, and they end up being cast aside by these egomaniacs who are now feeling like they're Jesus's chosen fucking thing. So I've been wanting to talk about her for a while because she's a really interesting person. And I can't believe there's no documentary about her yet, because I'm sure it will come out soon. Fucking like cuckoo. Derek, did you have a chance to look at anything about Doreen?
Yeah, I mean, I made a lot of notes. I'm gonna cough. Sorry. Um, yeah, I really wasn't that I wasn't familiar with her really at all. I don't think until the only time I think I had ever heard of her was because like you've talked about her before. But it just yeah. So I made notes, and it's just my impression is that she like appears to be like a non-denominational, born again, hyper fundamentalist Christian who spends a lot of time criticizing the church broadly, mostly for idolatry, yet again like is positioning herself as the person through which like you can know about the church, and like the most basically the purest Christian seems to be her sort of thing. Like what is it that like qualifies her exactly? And I understand she says she's like heard God. I mean, at first she heard spirit at one point, and now she thinks that actually it was the devil speaking to her and it's demonic, but now she's heard Jesus. And then, so I guess that's her qualification, but she's not attached to a church. She seems to broadly criticize like everybody else's like worship except her own brand of worship, or the worship you can like find through her and listening to her teachings, which is like seems to be idolatrous to me by any definition. She also appears to have a fake PhD from a diploma mill that she goes through using. So that's interesting.
Wait,
In
wait,
the
wait,
interview,
wait,
like
wait, wait. What's the diploma? What is the diploma?
it's a PhD. It's a fake PhD from what would be called a diploma mill, meaning a place you can go to like that's really not a accredited university that gives out these things they call diplomas, or that maybe has the distinction of like being accredited, but only at the sort of bare minimum qualifications to be giving out PhDs. And they're like quick courses, and they're like cheap, and you go to them and you get sort of a fake PhD, whereby
So I
you've
found
done
that
like
one
none of the research that's
article.
equivalent to earning a PhD, basically.
I think that was in the article I sent in our group chat. And yeah, I believe it also said like she started off as like a counselor somewhere. So just one of those people that like people are like, oh, wow, like I love your advice. Wow, how'd you know that about me? And then she kind of like took that and ran with it with like intuition and stuff, is what I got from that as well. So it's kind of like you got a few compliments, boost your ego a little bit. Now you think you're psychic.
In the interview I watched, someone had asked her like her criticism of the church, and she says, "Oh, well, the church, is bad because yoga is polytheistic." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like she went to a church yoga class one time and projected that onto the church broadly, like as an institution, and decided that like yoga and the church are now aligned, and that's demonic because yoga is polytheistic, which is very weird. Like she seems to be projecting that onto the church broadly and deciding that it's bad just so she can have something to criticize, because I think that's kind of her thing. Um, and of course, like, it makes sense she can't belong to any particular denomination of the church, because then there would be no room for her to fashion herself as a prophet, it seems to me, because those churches would have pastors and leaders already. At a super high
Mm.
level, like, I actually agree with her criticisms of New Age as self-obsessed, but then she like takes you in an equally weird direction that's equally fantastical and equally extreme and fundamentalist, where she simply sort of trades one idol worship for another, right? And sort of doesn't like, why is it that the Bible exactly is better than any of these New Age texts she says are now demonic? Well, the reason is because Doreen has had a vision at some point, right? Okay.
Yeah, to jump in, like that's something that I find so interesting too, where when I'm scrolling in and I do follow her just to see what she says, because I find myself after, being disillusioned by New Age and leaving, I see her post about like I don't know how you shouldn't be using tarot cards. They're meaningless. You're just listening to your own ego. And I'm like, yes, 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 I agree with that. And then the last sentence is like, and that's why you should follow Jesus and Corinthians, whatever, dot, whatever. And I'm like, no. So there's like literally so many of her posts. I'm like, yes, I agree with you. And then I'm like, but why? Why did you have to jump from like one culty thing to a maybe more extreme culty thing,
mhm.
which is born again?
Speaking of just the way she like throws things in that you're like, what, huh? Actually love the way she talks in these interviews that I was watching, because she has this extremely average, like Linda from accounting type of voice. And she talks like she's giving a PowerPoint, and she'll say these things like, well, when I was a little girl, I thought these people around me were my friends, but of course they were envoys of Satan masquerading as beings of light. So then, you're like, what? As with the same energy as if she's like giving, a PowerPoint on like market research. Now turning to the next graph, we'll see that these are projections that leave room for improvement. Like, it's the same energy. Women, she said one time, women would come. I'm trying to do her voice. Women would come to my seminars and say these wonderful things, and I really thought I was helping people. And that whole time, I had no idea I was God's enemy and working for the devil. Like, I was what you'd call woke. Love is love, everyone is equal. Which, as I now know, of course, we are not. We are deceitful, detestable abominations in the eyes of God, and it's but for His mercy that we should otherwise perish in hellfire. So, like, you're like, it's just like, it's so fucking
Whoa.
funny. Yeah. Anyways, but yeah. So, yeah, I noticed she's like constantly. Her thing just seems to be constantly bringing attention to like her own piousness, like her own perfection. She doesn't. I don't know how many times I don't even know how many times I've read the Bible, and I'm currently reading the most accurate version possible of the translation that's based on the ancient fucking whatever Aramaic, and that's the one I'm reading, and I'm reading it for the 100,000th time actually. And like, yeah, it's just all very focused on herself, which is of course like completely at odds with this idea that like the church is too idolatrous, right? Like, she's the idol in this situation.
Do we have any sense of what her following is like right now? Like, do you know if any of her followers followed her from the New Age to the church, and what Christians think of her generally?
Oh, I was going to comment on both those things. So
Yay.
yeah, back in 2017, like you were saying, like so many of her followers were so confused, and I don't have statistics, but I started going down the rabbit hole of watching many YouTube videos of people, like ranging from people being like, oh my gosh, Doreen told me to burn all of her books and I will. And like literally on video, a picture of like fire burning all the books and the cards. And I felt so bad because I was still heavily believing in New Age at that point. And I'm like, why? Why are they just blindly following her? Like, what is happening? Like, why would you go, why would you burn everything, something you believe in so strongly, just because one person is telling you to? So yes, I do believe some people probably followed her to whatever the born again Christian rhetoric that she started teaching. And then I think some people might have been like me and got super disillusioned and weren't sure what to do. When I started searching Doreen Virtue's A Fraud, actually that screenshot of that weird angel picture, shitting Nutella that I sent you guys. If you open up the picture, it's from a Facebook group that says Doreen Virtue's A Fraud. And it's actually, I was like, okay, maybe I'll get some good information here. And I believe it's another section of Christianity that make all these videos saying how she doesn't know what she's talking about and she's a fraud. So yes, to Derek's point, like she has other groups that are Christian that are very against her, but that's where I saw like the most probably like videos were from like other groups of Christians talking about her. But she seems to still have like a pretty big following. I just hope, whoever did follow her didn't get too hypnotized by Christianity and just blindly follow. Another thing I was thinking is I wonder how much, it seems like she might have had a little ego to start with, but I think her publisher, Hay House, which, picks out their cash cow and blows them up, makes them a star. I wonder how much influence they had on her ego, obviously, like who she is today. Like, I'm guessing they forced her to make a lot of those, like in her contract. That's why she has hundreds of books and stuff. She was forced to come up with something. She probably didn't write all of them. They probably did. And they, so I could see how that could be exhausting too, and you just want to leave it. But yeah, I'm just so fascinated with anyone who drastically jumps from New Age to anything else.
Yeah, I read in the end of that article that you showed us, the last line is something like, if they haven't changed their angle, then it's still making money. So it seems like New Age just was a well that dried up for her at some point. At least that's the criticism most people make of her. And she laughs, of course, and she says, well, if that were true, then I wouldn't be in such debt. And it's like, well, I think the reason you're in such debt is because you like bought a mansion, like, and then the well dried up. Like,
I was just always wondering if someone like got to her, if she just like met some man one day. I think the article said she's on her fifth husband. I couldn't really see other evidence of that. I also couldn't tell what her real last name is because that article said one thing. I saw another last name somewhere else, and both her children have the last name of Virtue. So I'm still wondering like who this woman is.
She has children.
She may have changed it, between husbands a few times.
I like the first thing I thought of when she went to Christianity was that she was going for a bigger market, because New Age people will basically buy anything, but there are a lot of fucking Christians on the planet, and if you can establish yourself as a fucking prophet or as a influential Christian person, celebrity, oh boy, that is money, that is power, that is influence, that is like the pinnacle. Like, becoming a religious leader is like, yeah, you become untouchable. That is the closest to God like you can become, because unlike somebody like Oprah, who isn't officially affiliated with, I mean, she talks about God. I don't know. Anyway, celebrity worship has its limits, whereas people who are devoted to God and Christianity will fucking well, they'll go to war for them, right? They will kill people in the name of God.
I mean, I would argue that Oprah has a stronger command of a bigger fan base than any religious figure, but I actually see them as entirely the same thing. I mean, Oprah, for that matter, has promoted people who do what she does. She has had Doreen Virtue on the show. She was
I didn't know that. Right. You said
I'm
that.
pretty sure she pumped up Tony
That's
Robbins back in the day.
Look at.
She has, she's given platforms to the same. It's the same thing. She has been a platform for cult of personality type figures. Dr. Oz, I mentioned last time. Dr. Phil, that's what she. And this is the one of the biggest profit like areas. If like I said, Tony Robbins, or I don't know, any of these newfangled influencers who do fucking seminars, which give you the secret to becoming rich or whatever the fuck, right? Where you pay $1,000 for a seat and they just spew platitudes at you or whatever. Like this is it's obviously a huge market.
Yeah,
It doesn't really matter if
definitely.
it's like religion or if it's supplements
I
or,
agree. I agree. I
Newsterity or
agree.
fucking Arbonne or whatever, right?
Yeah, I agree with you, Derek. I think it's all the same realm. And again, like this is where the thoughts come up for me of like, well, if Doreen Virtue is inspiring people and she's not hurting anybody, is it bad? Do we know that she's actually hurt anybody or that anybody's been in danger because of what she's done?
Well, my argument has always been that fraud is on its merits a bad thing, right? I don't think she's had any visions, and she does seem to be like willing to just like totally change and not have any values in pursuit of more fame and money, right? Like she doesn't have any values. Her values are self promotion and cash,
Yeah.
and to
If you guys
invest
ever
in
want
her
to
any
ask
more than that.
her,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you want to ask her a question, she does respond to her DMs on Instagram. So we can
All
sneak in
of
there.
them?
And
Should I invite her on the
she's
show?
responded to me before.
She's responded to you?
Yeah, I don't know. I forget what exactly I said to her, but she answered back and of course ended it with like, I'm glad that you're on your way to Jesus. Um,
Did you indicate that you did you did you indicate that you were on your way to Jesus?
No, I think I responded to one of her posts where I was like, yes, but the Jesus part or something.
Oh,
And then I think, yeah. Oh, what's the word? They get like they get very missionary. That's the sentence that came to mind.
Ooh, Jazz is getting spicy in the missionary.
But, yes, everyone's on their Christian mission to convert. So anything, again, like it almost, I almost had that little bit of a feeling when a psychic tells you something, like they foresee, like you're on your way to Jesus. You'll find somebody in 2 years. I'm like, oh, am I on my way to Jesus? No, I'm not. But yeah, she does answer DMs. So
Did I ever tell you both when I first moved to Toronto and I was going to AA because I didn't know if I was an alcoholic, and AA is very much Christian focused? No, sorry. Spiritually, it's a spiritual based program. So the steps are basically the 12 steps are supposed to induce a spiritual awakening. You surrender your life and then it takes away your addictions. And when I first started going, Michael, who's been on the show, amazing, best friend, love him so much. I was like high on spirituality. Like I bought a full white outfit. Like I was like, yeah, like full. It looked like Evan was like, you look like you're about to move to the middle of nowhere and start a commune. But I was just so high on the idea of like God and spirituality. And at this time, every time I went to visit Calgary. Every time I turned on the radio, it was the Christian channel, and I didn't know how. This other time, I turned on the TV at my friend's house, and it ended up being this Christian. This person on the TV was like, tarot, manifesting, that's all from the devil. And now I'm a Christian. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like they're talking to me. And then when I got back to Toronto and I was in the subway, I looked down and right by my feet, this is after I started telling people, I feel like Jesus is hunting me because Christianity was just like everywhere I looked and turned on the TV and the radio. It was like Christian music, Christian messaging. It was really crazy. And I went to the subway this one time and I looked down and on the platform is a picture of Jesus holding this blonde baby. And I was like, oh my God, what the actual fuck? And I did feel like something is happening. Like Jesus calling me. I remember calling my best friend's mom, Tammy Joy, lovely Christian lady, and I was like, "What do you think this means?" And of course, she's like, "Jesus is calling you. Jesus is calling you. He's calling you." But yeah, I mean, why I brought that up is I have had positive thoughts about Jesus as a loving figure. Like, what a nice thought that there was somebody who existed that was pure love and spread that message. That who can't get behind that idea that there was a man that existed that was like here to like spread love and light. That's a beautiful, 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 beautiful idea and story. But that is not what Christianity is in the world these days. It's not. It's like the opposite. It's bigotry, it's intolerance, it's rules, it's all this stuff. So I have had like thoughts of like, oh, that's so nice, but immediately I'm like, but wait, the church and the religion is awful, and the people in it are don't like me. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, obviously that message can be resisted, as you did when Jesus quite obviously was calling you to the church because you have a deceitful heart and love Satan. So
Yeah, and I love the D.
you're the children of the lie.
I'm the leader of the children. Yeah, I fucking hate, like, Jess, you and I have talked about this for sure, is like I just hate that there's so much toxicity wrapped up in what modern spirituality is, because it can be such a positive, helpful, healing tool if you can like embrace it with your mind. There's just so many deceitful people in it and so many commercialized versions of what could be a helpful healing message that it's all bullshit. You just honestly, I feel like after doing this show for almost, by the way, we're almost at 100 episodes. Can you
Wow.
believe
What are we going to
that?
do? We have to celebrate
Well,
on
I did
episode
I did
100.
interview somebody recently that's a pretty big guest in my opinion.
Okay,
I'll tell you
fine. Leave
guys
us
later.
out of the
But
celebration.
we should do something. We should do something because it's huge that we've gotten this far, and also that our viewers have stuck with us, that it's growing, that people like us. I mean, that's a lot. 100 hours of me talking about fame and fucking spirituality. Thankfully, you two have come on to join me and break up my inner monologue.
Well, I could have been learning cabinetry.
Yes, cabinetry. I don't know why 100 episodes. Oh, after basically doing the show for so long, what I was going to say is the only thing I trust when it comes to spirituality or new age or anything is what happens inside my body. Like meditation makes me calm. Positive self-talk, positive self-talk helps me stay calm. Eating good foods makes me grounded. Not drinking, not doing drugs makes me feel good. Like those are what make up my spiritual health now. It has nothing to do with tarot, crystals, leaders, church, books, anything. Sometimes I will, like, somebody gave me a tarot deck for my birthday and I'll pull cards and it's fun, and Evan and I like have a little thing, but it doesn't mean anything. It's like playing cards or like watching the housewives. It's just benign. It doesn't mean anything. And it's so much more fulfilling now. Like that event that I went to last week, those are the types of experiences I was desperately trying to manifest in my life while I was sitting on my ass doing absolutely nothing. And now that I've moved past that and I'm just kind of like taking life one day at a time, accepting who I am, accepting where I'm at, accepting what I'm doing in my life, those opportunities come and it's like, oh my God, it's so much more rewarding because it's not coming from a place of desperation of like, if I don't get this, I'm going to die or I have no value. And a big part of me being able to have fun, positive, in the moment experiences now is because I let go of the fucking desperation and the grip I had on like, how do I manifest my dreams? How do I manifest my dreams? You know, I've had to let go of that in order to actually be happy. And I'm not happy all the time, just like happier.
Yeah, same.
Did you guys listen to the my speaking of manifesting my dreams, the last episode with Hollywood Jade?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
you did?
definitely put it on. Yeah.
Jess, I want you to listen to it. I'm curious what you'll think.
Absolutely.
Well, any more thoughts on Doreen?
She doesn't seem to be that popular, honestly. I don't think she has a huge impact anymore. If at one point she did, I feel like she's kind of fallen off. Like if nobody's making a big 3-hour like YouTube video essay on her, there, I mean, she's not anybody, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's probably like the hardcore fans that still follow her, or people like us who like dip in every once in a while to sort of get some, content to talk about. But
I think she's
she's
too out there to have any influence, honestly. I mean, any marked influence on like a broader sense of culture, I don't think that exists.
agreed. She had her moment. She had her time in the sun. And now she will preach on the corner of Yonge and Dundas in Toronto for the rest of time. You know what I was thinking we could talk about next week?
No.
The Lady Gaga fucking Illuminati sacrifice story.
Okay, that's something I'll have to do research on.
Wait,
Yeah,
well, and
definitely.
this is a good one because Jess, I know you like that story, and Derek, you've been influenced by Gaga in your life, so I think it'll be a juicy one to talk about.
Sure. What about AI art? We still had that on the.
So AI, yeah. Do you wanna go?
Well, we've got time.
Do it.
Yeah, well, it's just it. I noticed that after this Lensa app kind of blew up for like a day on Instagram, which is the app where you can feed it a bunch of images, of yourself in different positions, different expressions, and it will spit out new AI generated images in a range of art styles: anime, sci-fi, fantasy, and so on. Um, so obviously a discourse started where this is bad actually, because whenever something gets popular, 3 days later, discourse starts about how this actually damages fucking farmers in Uganda or some shit, and it's ruining everyone's life, or it's the rainforests are instantly vaporizing because of how much computing power this uses, or some shit, right? And so in this case, it was AI art is theft because the, I guess, databases or whatever programs by which they scrub the internet for references are obviously existing art that other people have created. And so the argument is this is theft because existing references were used. And some people seem to mistakenly think that what AI art does is collage images, where it actually cuts things out and just reproduces them whole into a new image that is a collage of various other people's work. This is just not true. AI art uses references in really a very similar way to the way any human or artist would use references, in the sense that we can look at stuff. There's no way to be not influenced by everything around us, culture, everything that exists. You cannot create art in a vacuum, right? And so the way AI art does this is maybe it's a database. I don't know. I think some of them are databases where AI art is trained with billions of references. So these are intentionally selected and then put into the thing. But this is pretty comparable to the way humans gather references. And at any rate, the point is that AI is a completely new generated image that is influenced by the style of the art that it's trained on. So the argument is, because you have to take this art and throw it into this database and generate something new, and there is no artist getting compensated basically for the new work, or perhaps maybe the people getting compensated are those who own whatever app is doing the work, then this is stealing money from people's pockets. This is wrong in a lot of ways, not the least of which is fair use copyright law. There is no argument for this being theft on the basis of fair use copyright law, because collage, even if this were collage, is already legal under fair use copyright law, which basically, in general, there's 4 criteria, but the main criteria is that if you are reusing pieces of existing work, it just has to be transformational. You can use it for criticism, you can use it for education, and so on. But as long as, so the reason why collage clears this bar is because you take pieces of other things and put them in a new arrangement. The work is a new full piece. It's not the same thing. This is the reason why you can use clips on YouTube of things that you're criticizing. You can use clips of songs in sampling for music, blah, 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 without permission. This is key to fair use copyright law. You can do all of this without any permission and without citing sources. This is 100% legal. And for this reason, this is not the least of the reasons, but one of the reasons why AI art is totally not theft. The only arguments that I can see supporting AI art being potentially wrong is, one, the fact that money is going towards whoever owns this app or whoever owns the means by which the AI art is generating images, instead of to people who put a bunch of labor into creating the reference images that are used. My argument against that would be that like I could do the same thing. I could literally look at a bunch of references and draw something in the style of someone else. Let's pick an artist. Let's say Frida Kahlo. I could try to do a Frida Kahlo painting, and it could be really, really similar. Like it could almost be a reproduction of something she's done, but it's of a different, my cat or something, instead of a portrait of Frida. And this would really be exactly what AI art is doing, right? And this is legal, completely legal. You can't steal an art style. You can't own an art style. And I think the argument that the people paying $8 to generate some AI art images are stealing it from someone you could have asked to do that for you, I don't think people were going to do that. I don't think they were going to commission art for significantly greater price than the $8 it takes to ask this app to do it for you. People were not going to do that. So the only people from whom it is really stealing any work is the really small time artists on like Fiverr who are already undercutting their peers, right? Artists in, let's say overseas, so I don't single out any particular country, where the dollar is worth a way more, right? Where they're able to offer these services for a tiny fraction of the price. That's who's cutting. This is just another way of undercutting Western artists because the prices are so much higher that the Western artists would ask for. So this is not happening. I do not agree that this is taking money out of the pockets of actual artists, because no one is going to pay $50, $100, $150, $200 for that work when they could just have some fun with the $8 AI art. The other argument that I think is potentially actually holds some weight here is, well, there's two more arguments, and the spiritual one I think is the one you're the most interested in, so I'll get to that last. But the second argument I think is the idea that like the labor involved is constitutes theft, because a ton of labor goes into the original reference images that AI uses to spit out something new, and no labor is being done when the new image is created based on those references. Again, this is the only way I can see any type of argument, but the argument then would have to be, why is labor a good thing? Why is labor better or more valuable in creating something on a sort of philosophical level than no labor? If the outcome is basically identical, if the process by which the art is created between a machine and a human is basically identical, and the argument people make against that is that inspiration is different from references, but I don't agree, then you sort of have to give me a philosophical argument about why putting labor into something gives it more value, and why anyone should care when the result is basically indistinguishable. Like I could show you AI art and I could tell you a human made it, and you wouldn't be able to tell me it didn't. You wouldn't know. So there's, I don't see any value that is philosophically different between labor and not labor in that case. And based on the fact that I think like no one would pay more for the labor value when they could pay the $8 for the little fun thing, like based on that, that's why I don't see the argument. Like I said, it's not actually taking money away from any artists for people to do this, because they weren't going to pay for the art in the first place. And then the last thing, which I think is the spiritual argument, is what makes creativity born of the human brain or soul or spirit more valuable than the lack of that happening in AI art, right? So I think in order, like I was sort of alluding to earlier, in order to value, when people say AI art has no soul, there's no passion in it, there's no creativity, that's basically true. I would agree. I mean, I don't think AI will get to this point, but it's not yet at the point where it's, thinking and feeling and making judgments the way humans do. That's true. But this is the spiritual part where, why is that stuff valuable? Who says that the quote unquote passion or soul that goes into creative work is better? And in order to believe that it is, you would have to believe in something endowing it with that value. God, maybe, or the universe, if you prefer, right? But philosophically, there's nothing in nature that will tell us that human effort into something is better somehow or more special than if a computer did it, right? So if you could make that argument to me and I would listen, but it would have to be based on something spiritual in order for it to be like there's just nothing tells us that in nature. There's no objective way to say that human passion and spirit is like better than what a machine can do.
I wonder, I did see one person who is I don't know what his job is. He's definitely a creative. He does like shoots for product. Like he'll do like I don't know, he's a photographer slash designer of some kind. He was the first person I saw that shared AI art is theft. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then Derek, I saw your story about it. And I agree with you. I mean, I think the reason why people are having strong reactions is because it's so comparable to what people do and because it was so fucking impressive and it was threatening. Like the first thing to do when you're threatened is to attack it. And we can talk until our face is blue about, yeah, but it takes somebody 10 hours to paint this and it took the AI 0.000003 seconds to create it. But if it looks the same, guess what? We're in the age of commodification. That's why we love social media. That's why we love dating apps and Grindr, because we can get what we want instantly. That's why Amazon is a fucking $1 trillion company. We want things fast. We want things accessible. That's what AI is offering us in art. And it is fucking scary. I'm a creative person, to think that there will be AI pop stars and AI authored books and who knows what else is freaky. But I think to really get momentum on a case against this, it has to be, you have to appeal to the human spirit. Like, you have to try and get people connected on that level, because if you're talking about the quality or like you said, the time and or quantifying it, there's too many examples of that not mattering to people. Unfortunately, we get what's cheap, we get what's fast, we get what's easy. And I love the idea of like the philosophical and spiritual question of this, because it is going to change. And when this whole AI art was coming up on Instagram, Evan and I were talking about it in bed, like, for so long, the conversation about AI taking over the world seemed far away. It's never going to happen. Like, it's going to happen, but it's going to take so long. And then this whole thing emerged, and it's like, oh my God, it's going to happen a lot faster. AI are also writing code now. So anybody who's a digital designer, anybody who's a coder, this is going to replace them, or at least change their jobs in some way in the foreseeable future. And that paired with I shared this on Instagram, that 2/3 of Gen Z and 53% of millennials would choose TikTok over all of the streaming platforms combined if they had to choose how they consume media. That compared with AI art is a pretty interesting future. I think the way we consume media, how it's made, how we are actually engaging in it in our lives is going to be so different. And people who are like in their 30s now, we're going to feel really old really soon, I think. And the people who are like 10, 12 right now are going to be like little robots, I think.
Just want to respond to a couple of things you said too, because the argument about, you said, well, so much work goes into the art and then no work goes into the AI. We eliminate labor in as many ways as we can to live comfortable lives, right? So that argument on its own is not enough. You'd have to take it a little further and say that, like, that labor, is worth something because it's special, because humans are doing it, and because we don't want to eliminate these little working class artists who make a living this way. But I would counter that by saying the little working class artists who make a living this way are doing it for corporations who are undercutting them as much as possible. Corporations are already trying to reduce spend in every way. So yes, this will eliminate those artists overseas on Fiverr who are already undercutting the market. Yes, it probably will. And I don't give a fuck, because what will still exist is the spiritual special art that people are so concerned about. That isn't going anywhere. AI art does not replace that. AI art will never, look, the negotiation between a corporation and a designer is, how do I get this designer to put what's in my brain on their page? And they're already doing that for as cheaply as they possibly can. They will never stop reducing spend in that area. But what will never be replaced is the artist is getting what I see in my brain onto the paper myself. So that's not going anywhere, right? Artists can still do that. Artists who want to rest on this conversation about, but there's so much spiritual value and specialness about human generated art. Well, it's not going anywhere. That's not the art you're talking about when you're talking about this corporate, logo design and graphic design and shit. That's not special art anyway. That's just corporate art. That's a service. Just a service. And if that service that's already being paid for minimally gets eliminated, oh well, like, it doesn't go to the spiritual argument at all.
Do you think though that I guess what
and one more thing. AI art will still always, it's still derpy as fuck. It will probably still require competent digital artist to fix it, right? And it requires human inputs in the first place.
Humans will always be able to create, even if AI is doing it. We'll still have the ability, is what you're saying. But do you think that, like, you need 100,000 followers right now to get a book deal? It doesn't matter how fucking talented you are. You need an existing following to make it easier for them to sell. So if AI is making art, will it restrict the way in which human creators are able to share their art with the world, or will it be equal? Because if you can get an amazing AI piece of art for $8.99 and your friend can do it, but it takes them 3 months and they charge you $300, it's like, I'm sorry. I don't think it's good. I don't think we can all collectively as a society like mourn the loss of that type of economy, that way of engaging with artists. But the signs have been there. Like when Napster first came up and Spotify, the writing was on the wall for musicians. You have to tour. And once they start doing holographic concerts and Lady Gaga performs one show and she's, projected into all of our living rooms, that will be the death of live shows too. If I don't know, I'm like getting ahead of myself, but we have been
and what
seeing
did the
this
industry
happen
do?
for a
It
long time.
adapted. Yeah, the industry adapted.
Yeah. And who knows what kind of jobs will, like you said, it's derpy. Like there is an AI out there who can write a horror novel, but when you read it, you're like, wait a second, like it's like it was a dark and stormy night on a house in a hill and something wasn't right. So you're reading it and you're like, okay, it is the start of a horror novel, but there's something missing. So maybe the new job of humans will be humanizing the art so that it's amazing. The structure is there, but we need to just infuse it with what makes it actually human.
Sure. Did digital instrumentation replace analog instruments? No. Period.
No, they didn't. I mean, yeah, no, they didn't. And when you go to like even Lady Gaga's huge pop show that I saw in the summer, there was musicians on stage. So it is evolving. But if I was a painter, if I was a digital artist and I saw those AI art this past week, I would have had the same reaction, like, what the fuck? Or I was out for dinner last night. Was it? Anyway, somebody was recently telling me like the people who go to school and learn like 5 languages to be interpreters. And now it's like you don't need a human interpreter. You literally can just Google Translate anything anywhere in the world. It might not be actually teaching you unless you use Duolingo, but there are so many jobs, creative jobs, that will be replaced by AI that will make our lives easier. And I think maybe in the short term, take away some opportunity from humans, but hopefully open up new ways of us engaging with the technology and have new jobs. Like maybe the artists are a part of the algorithm creation and a part of like giving the AI ideas on how to make the art even better. Like there could be opportunity. It's not just going to be dystopian. Hopefully there will still be some kind of like, wow, the AI is making our experience better. And this is awesome. As long as they don't take away my podcast, please. Please. Actually, I have this woman who I've been waiting to come on the show. She's a data scientist and she has some thoughts about technology, algorithms, and spirituality and how that could evolve, how we engage and how our spirituality is affected. So hopefully I can lock her in soon. Because I love technology. I love this whole topic of like AI and how it's going to affect the human experience.
Yeah, like I brought this up on Instagram where everyone should be following me. But it's the question asked by the movie Ex Machina, right? If artificial intelligence can perfectly replicate human emotion, if it can appear to be making calculations about cause and effect, and if it can appear to be acting on those in a way that could be described as like moral or amoral, what the fuck is the difference between that and consciousness?
Oh God.
And at that point, what's better? Where do we get the idea that humanity is better from then?
No,
Is
we're
it
not
God?
better. That's the
Is it
whole thing.
God?
Then we
No,
just
that's
become
exactly.
these meat
have to be
puppets that
God.
eventually die. Yeah, because if you have a Peter Breeze version that's a robot AI, smarter, better, faster, stronger, that will actually live forever, who fucking wants me when I have to get more and more Botox every 2 weeks and they just look like a fucking plump peach until the day that they're unplugged from the fucking giant battery, whatever they are.
Well, I'm gonna go
Giant
kill
battery.
myself.
Oh,
Wait, you didn't give a trigger warning.
yeah, you have to say, I'm gonna go play Roblox. I'm gonna go Roblox myself.
Wow, that I'm all fired up. Okay, yeah, next week we'll do Lady Gaga and the Liver King. Actually,
Nice.
Derek, Evan did want me to ask you about this, about the Liver King. So yeah, tune in next week. We'll get our personal muscle daddy's opinion on the Liver
Yeah,
King
I was gonna say
scandal.
I'm like stereotyping Derek. I'm like, you have muscles? Do you know about the Liver King?
Our personal primal.
Woo! Okay, long live the robots. I'll talk to y'all soon.
Love y'all.